Hello there. Nasty bug experiments were carried out in a biolab where? While we watch wall-to-wall coverage of the Germans having a massive love-in with King Charles III and Queen Consort Camilla, news that experiments with nasty bugs have been going on in the UK pass us by. And these experiments were UK government-led. Yes, the news on this came out a couple of weeks ago in massive bombshell news. Well, actually, news that for some reason or other went nowhere really. That Imperial College London, with the blessing of the UK Health Security Agency, had infected cells with 2 versions of the health emergency bug in order to see which of them would win out. But Anton van der Meer, Professor of Molecular Immunology at the University of Oxford, said that this was a dangerous thing to do, as it risked the 2 variants merging or recombining to make a third and potentially more dangerous type. I think that even unscientific lay people could have worked out that possibility. Now, according to reports, these experiments were conducted in London. But according to a spokesperson for Imperial College London, it was conducted in a biosafety level 3 laboratory in line with strict government regulations and received ongoing approval from the Health and Safety Executive. And here was me thinking the highest level of safety is containment level 4. Now this, we're told, was all about informing the science and government on how to deal with our responses to outbreaks of similar things going forwards. But now there are worries that there has been a global boom in the number of such labs springing up all over the place, conducting what some are labelling as risky research that could end up being the cause and source of the next incident. But many are refusing to acknowledge that possibility because they fear the funding for such experiments would dry up as a result. Now, one can understand the need for such research. But in London? So Andrew Bridgen MP put his head above the parapet in Parliament again today, only to be met once again with put down and disdain. This time he was asking the Leader of the House, Penny Mordaunt, if there could be a proper debate on the treaty that will potentially hand over huge swathes of UK health policy to the World Health Organisation, the WHO.
Of those twin objectives.
Andrew Bridgen.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I've been requesting a debate on the WHO post treaty for several months, and so I'm delighted that we will be having one on the 17th of April, but this petition was only obtained by successful public petition, obtaining over 156,000 signatures. Even more concerning than the treaty itself, which requires a vote of both houses to be binding, are proposed changes to WHO international health regulations, which will not require a vote. So, therefore, can we urgently have a government statement on these proposed changes, which could look set to hand over huge powers to an unelected, unaccountable, discredited supranational body, which is hugely funded by the same people who fund Big Pharma?
Well, I thank the honourable gentleman for his question. A debate has been secured and he will know how to raise concerns about such matters with the Secretary of State for Health and with other departments. I think it is incredibly important that we have the facts of whether it is such treaties, whether it is the facts about so forth, out in the public domain. And I would just again caution the honourable gentleman who this week has been inviting us to join the dots, promoting that Anthony Fauci has created in the United States and then offshored that operation to Wuhan, and in the previous session prior to this business questions in DEFRA is starting a new campaign to tell the public that this government and its international network of World Economic Forum stooges are encouraging everyone to eat insects. These are outrageous conspiracy theories that the Honourable Gentleman is promoting on his social media and more frequently on the floor of this House, and I would urge him to check his behaviour.
I would urge him to check his behaviour. This from someone who wrote a book full of wokeness that had a glowing endorsement in the form of a foreword by one Bill Gates in it. I'll leave you to decide which side of the supranational control versus national sovereignty fence our penny is on. 150,000 people are concerned and they want to see this matter properly debated, but the government obviously does not. So the government is doing all it can to discredit anyone who tries to get to the bottom of all of this. And especially anyone who gets in the way of our betters shoehorning the UK into any WEF or WHO or C40 cities style organisation to allow them to control us. An appalling attitude. And when the truth eventually outs and is accepted as mainstream in the UK, I want to see those MPs held to account for trying to shut down the debate. I look forward to the 17th of April debate to see how much of a debate it really is. Or will it end up like the Windsor Framework stitch-up, forcing us to obey the WHO in future? Anyway, with news that one big pharma company is facing a lawsuit in Pretoria, South Africa, a lawsuit filed by leading medical professionals, the debate can only become more mainstream. And recent data out of the now dubbed Hermit Kingdom of Western Australia has some surprising findings for an area of the world that had very few cases, but a hell of a lot of medical intervention. This could get very interesting. But at the moment we have a press that supinely follows the government and the big pharma line, with one of the medical professionals that has been raising concerns, Dr. Joseph Freeman, reportedly telling Professor Norman Fenton that he was interviewed for the antisocial BBC report on a Bridgen speech in Parliament, one of those speeches that got the MP into hot water with his Tory party. But Freeman said his 1-hour interview was contorted into a 3-second paraphrase, ignoring all the relevant information. That sounds about par for the course, doesn't it? And you thought gas was already expensive. Well, all those 20-odd million households that have gas heating and or appliances will be facing even higher bills when the government slaps an extra tax on them to try and get them to spend out to convert to electricity only. And electricity prices would, we are told, go down as a result. But when the whole country is totally reliant on the electric grid for everything, I suspect the electricity bills will skyrocket, especially if energy is as tight as I think it will be. And while this goes on, the cost of everything in the UK will rise, more manufacturing will be outsourced to China, so offshoring our carbon footprint, but no doubt we'll be charged for that under the new carbon credit trading system. And it won't matter that according to a recent Express poll, 93% of respondents think that the move to ban the sale of new petrol and diesel cars by 2030 should be delayed, especially as the EU has sort of watered down their approach to this issue. But the Transport Secretary Grant Shapps is having none of that. He has doubled down on the UK commitment. We really are having net zero done to us, aren't we? Now, I'm not sure the Ramona Brigade has latched onto this yet, but their dream to lever the UK back inside the EU is about to come to an abrupt end. because the UK is on the verge of signing up to the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, or CPTPP. And the way that partnership is structured would make it legally impossible for us to re-enter the EU, unless the EU changed all its treaties to allow it to have free trade with the CPTPP without its Commission, Court, Parliament and Council being in charge to protect its single market. Fat chance with that one. Or if the CPTPP as a whole agreed to become fully paid members of the EU and obey all the Brussels diktats and pledges to join the Euro and Schengen, etc. The only problem the UK has is that Rishi Sunak has sold Northern Ireland down the river via the Windsor Framework, so I'm not yet sure how the people of Northern Ireland can benefit from this. But it is a start. And it could get really big if, and it's a big if, the US at some stage decided to get itself back into the CPTPP programme. Then the doors would really open up. Richard.
Let's take a quick look at the newspapers for the day's lies and distractions for the gullible masses. In the Telegraph I read that our unelected Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, says we are not quite there yet with this sort of trade deal thingy. Yes. Why not? Why is it taking you so long to get to a place where we're not quite ready yet? The same applies for our never-ending increase in people entering the country illegally. You still haven't fixed that either. It looks close, but it always looks close, doesn't it? There's always something on the horizon. Oh, we're nearly there. Brexit was supposed to give this nation self-governance and the ability to act unilaterally with no hindrance, regardless of external laws and authority. You haven't delivered, have you? In fact, neither you nor the consecutive Tory leaders you served under managed to get Brexit done. Do you and your predecessors really serve the British people, Mr. Sunak? In the Sorry, as I record, people get to know now that I'm actually recording, so they stand outside and take a look in. In the Daily Mail, I read that prisoner Charles Bronson has lost his parole bid and therefore will not be allowed out of prison anytime soon. Now, I do acknowledge the fact that Mr. Bronson has a violent past, but he hasn't killed anyone. Yet we have potential killers from other countries walking our streets and put up in hotel rooms. Does anybody else see the double standards at play? Well, in the Express I read that King Charles's pen now has to be repeatedly checked to prevent him having another aggressive outburst and looking like a complete on the world stage. This is the man who apparently is frightened of cling film and changes his clothes 5 times a day. Oh, how green of him. Anyway, I can't read any more of this utter nonsense in the newspapers that masquerades as news. It's all distraction, and you're all probably better off not knowing about it. So what do you lot think about King Charles getting triggered by pens and cling film, the double standards regarding who should be locked up, and the Tories seemingly complete incompetence when it comes to delivering Brexit? And also leave your comments about whatever Jeff said earlier. Let us know in the comment section below, and we will see you again tomorrow at 5:45 for your daily dose of Jeff and I.